Looking for a compact family car, not a minivan, not a Volkswagen, and something relatively inexpensive? In my opinion, one of the most interesting cars on the market is the Peugeot 308, produced until 2013, but you should be very careful when buying one, and above all, beware. The Peugeot 308 debuted in 2007 as the successor to the 307. Since the digits after 0 have already been eliminated, the 308 designation is the last one, with the last digit changing with each generation of the compact. Therefore, we're talking about the first generation of the 308, as a total of 3 have already been produced. In 2008, the SW station wagon joined the lineup, followed a year later by the CC, a convertible coupe. Unlike the 307, the 308 no longer distinguished between station wagon and SW body styles. In the 308, the station wagon was the SW. In 2011, a facelift was carried out. It was the only one for Europeans and the first for other markets, as the car disappeared from Europe in 2013. A successor appeared. However, a second facelift for other markets took place the same year. This one in 2011 was minor. The front end was slightly smoothed out, while the rear is almost identical. The interior also didn't feature anything particularly new. What kind of car is it, and who is it for? If you look at the car with a cool head, it's the perfect compact. The interior is very spacious, appealing to taller people. While the 308 hasn't grown significantly in length compared to its predecessor, it is significantly taller. The same tall compact concept has been retained, distinguishing it from the competition in this respect. Few compact cars can match the Peugeot's width either. Thanks to this, the designers of the SW version have created a car that will appeal to family members who value the functionality of a minivan. The wheelbase in this body style has been extended from 2,608 to 2,700 millimeters, providing enormous rear space. Furthermore, like its predecessor, it has been possible to install 3 independent seats in a single row. Each of them has ISOFIX mounts. And, like its predecessor, 3 rows of seats are an option. In a compact station wagon! What users appreciate is the ease of arranging the SW version's interior. The seats fold like those in a minivan, standing upright or simply removed, creating a completely flat floor and a huge 1,736 liters of cargo space. Even in the standard 5-seat configuration, the trunk has a capacity of 573 liters. Only the front passenger seat cannot be removed, but its backrest can be folded down, which houses a folding table in the back. You can also open just the rear window without lifting the entire trunk lid. The hatchback has a trunk capacity of 348 liters, and the overall car isn't as practical or spacious as the station wagon. It can be a more affordable alternative to the Golf, Urus, or Astra, while the SW station wagon is an ideal option for those who value functionality and comfort. What engines were installed? Under the hood of the 308, a new generation of Prince petrol engines appeared. The naturally aspirated VTI and the supercharged THP were developed in collaboration with BMW, which supplied the variable valve timing system. The VTI was offered in 2 displacements, 1.4 and 1.6 liters, while the THP was available only in 1.6 liters. The VTI's power ranged from 95 to 120 horsepower, while the THP's output ranged from 140 to 200 horsepower GTI version. The diesel range seems limited, with only 2 HDI engines, 1.6 liter and 2.0 liter. The smaller engine produces a maximum of 112 horsepower and is primarily intended for economy, while the larger engine produces between 136 and 163 horsepower and is dynamic yet economical to drive. The 2011 facelift introduced some changes, including more powerful versions of some engines. The 1.4 VTI gained 3 horsepower, while the THP engine was more complex. Before the facelift, this engine was offered with 140, 150, and 174 horsepower, while after the facelift, only the 156 horsepower version remained, and a 200 horsepower GTI variant debuted. In the diesels, the 1.6 HDI units with 90 and 109 horsepower were replaced by more powerful 92 and 112 horsepower. In the case of the 2-liter, the 140 horsepower replaced the 136 horsepower version, while the 150 and 163 horsepower were offered in parallel and interchangeably at different times. Which engine to choose? And this is where the real problem begins. If we were to assume that we were looking for a car without any problems, we would have to recommend another car. Petrol engines are terrible, and diesels are simply diesels. A lot depends on the buyer's luck, from general to specific. VTI petrol engines are technically simpler, so they generally pose fewer problems than THPs. This doesn't mean they're good. They're prone to failure of cylinder heads, camshaft bearings, timing belt drives, injection systems, and lubrication systems. They accumulate carbon deposits despite the lack of direct injection, and they also burn oil. They're neither particularly dynamic nor particularly fuel efficient, around 7 to 8 liters 100 kilometers. In my opinion, it's better to add a few drawbacks and potential faults like turbocharging, direct injection, and a dual-mass flywheel, but at least enjoy the excellent performance of the THP engine while maintaining low fuel consumption for this power, up to 9 liters per 100 kilometers. Even in its most powerful version, the THP offers significantly better performance than the 120 horsepower VTI. Either way, petrol engines aren't the best choice. So is it better to go for a diesel? Unfortunately, there's a whole list of potential faults that occur with such engines, from dual-mass flywheels, sensors, and turbochargers to the injection system, which isn't cheap in this model. Depending on the condition of the engine and these components, you can enjoy trouble-free operation and fuel consumption of 5 liters per 100 kilometers, or you can get lucky and spend several thousand on repairs over the next few years and then curse diesels forever. On a lighter note, HDI engines are considered among the best, if not the best, in terms of durability. The 1.6 HDI is a bit more problematic, with cylinder head failures and camshaft wear becoming more common. Unfortunately, the 2.0 HDI is also increasingly appearing in workshops with significant defects. Fortunately, the selection of engines and spare parts is very good. Both engine types feature a FOP, diesel particulate filter system. While generally a good solution, it can still cause problems after higher mileage. The same applies to the start and stop system in EHDI engines, which causes the battery to drain more quickly. When choosing a diesel, you should first assume that you're buying a 1.6 for low fuel consumption and a 2.0 for good performance. The smaller HDI isn't particularly dynamic, but it can get down to 4 liters per 100 kilometers on the highway. Contrary to popular belief, almost all power variants can have a dual-mass flywheel, although it's a relatively inexpensive part, often costing less than 1,500 euros. The exception is the 92 horsepower variant, offered since 2009, which always has a single-mass flywheel. The 90 horsepower version varies, but most do not have a dual-mass flywheel. The THP petrol engines also have dual-mass flywheels. So how do you answer the question about the engine? In my opinion, if you like diesels, have a good mechanic, and can find a nice one, it's worth buying a 308 with the HDI under the hood. That doesn't mean it's the better choice. Unless you're lucky, you'll spend more on repairs than with the THP. If you buy a serviced THP, in my opinion, it's the best choice. If I were to buy a 308, it would be with this engine, although I'm aware it has many flaws. And really, that's precisely why I'm aware of them. According to one of the PSA Group's car specialists who deals with THP units, an engine can be completely serviced for around Euro 2,500 to 3,000. If it's fully functional, all you need to do is keep an eye on the warning lights, check the oil level, and clean the intake manifold of carbon deposits every 100,000 kilometers or so. This seems like a significant amount, but just replacing the clutch with a dual-mass flywheel for a diesel engine costs around Euro 2,000 to 2,500. For balance, in normally used THPs, the dual-mass flywheel lasts a very long time. Typical faults. Unfortunately, engines aren't the only problem with the Peugeot 308. This model is plagued by electrical problems, from minor ones, burnt-out bulbs or malfunctioning accessories, to more serious ones, power steering pump or control unit failure. One thing is certain, the 308 is not a good car for long trips, for example, abroad. One common problem is a malfunction of the power steering system, which is electro-hydraulic in this model. The pump needs to be replaced or rebuilt. The cost of a new, good quality one exceeds €1,000. A rebuilt or low-quality replacement costs around €500, 700, while originals, used and in working order, usually cost up to €500. When deciding on a Peugeot 308, it's best to research local garages. Without a Peugeot specialist and a good electrician, it's better to choose another brand. Many user complaints also concern the suspension, especially the front. Although it's a classic McPherson strut with a single wishbone, it requires frequent adjustments. Play sometimes occurs, and more often, undesirable sounds, squeaking, knocking, or creaking are more common. The rear suspension isn't problematic, as it features a torsion beam. The braking system also receives high praise. Unfortunately, the Peugeot 308 isn't as well protected against corrosion as older models, but that doesn't mean it rusts like Japanese cars. Small areas of corrosion do appear, mostly invisible areas, without affecting driving comfort or safety. Is the Peugeot 308 above average in terms of reliability? Yes, but it's also relatively inexpensive to repair. Its great advantage is its low susceptibility to corrosion, so you're unlikely to encounter any mishaps when buying one like you might with a Mazda or Honda. Operating costs. Operating costs depend largely on the specific model. If you find a rundown petrol or a worn-out or neglected diesel, it will be very expensive. If you find a nice one, it can be very inexpensive. The availability of both maintenance and repair parts is excellent, and their prices are comparable to those of the Volkswagen Group. Engine repairs will be the most expensive. Gearboxes are durable, both manual and automatic. The latter come in two variants, 4 and 6-speed. Cars with automatic transmissions are rare, and they were offered with 1.6 and 2.0 engines. The 4-speed gearbox was used with the 1.6 VTI engine and in the less popular THP. The gearbox was generally durable, but sluggish, and you shouldn't expect much from it, as it doesn't thrive in dynamic driving. The 1.6 THP with 174 horsepower and the 1.6 HDI diesel engine are available with a 6-speed automatic transmission. The 2.0-liter diesel engine also features a 6-speed fully automatic gearbox, offering the most durable design and the ability to handle the highest torque. Gearbox repairs are obviously expensive, but finding a workshop that will repair an automatic transmission can be a bigger challenge. With a 4-speed gearbox, problems are most often caused by the electrics, and repairs can be inexpensive.